In this video, I'm going to show you how I set up a very simple cabinet display. I'll go over structural considerations particular to cabinet displays featuring the Haunted Mansion, step-by-step setup instructions, and show you the end result. The first step in any village is to identify a location. We want this to be accessible and visible. Step 2 is to identify a structure. Cabinet displays are very similar to shelf displays. The main difference is that you have the addition of doors that can encase your display. Score for us. The location for my display is in the entryway of a public library. These cabinets are built into the wall. The location is pretty much set in stone or set in wall. Start with adjusting your shelves if that's possible in your cabinet so that your pieces will fit in, clearing all the latches, locks, hinges, and frames. For this display, the bottom shelf has to clear a latch, so there's a bit of dead space that I can't use. Also, my background is only 2 feet tall. I could raise the shelf to eliminate the white space on top, but I'm short, so this is where I'll leave it this year. I also recommend measuring your inner cabinet space, getting the length across left to right, the height top to bottom, and the depth front to back. This really helps prepping and planning for any landforms or platforms, bases, and backgrounds that you might use. And it also avoids the all too common, "it just won't fit" moment. In this display, these cabinets are tall, narrow, and long, which requires a bit more creativity. Sometimes I'll split the display in half or add in a landform to maximize the space. Whatever your situation, if you can't change the cabinet, change the display. For most villages, the next step is to add a background, but when you're working with shelf and cabinet displays, your next step is electricity, because in a lot of cabinets, you can't easily access the back to run any electricity through. Go ahead and hook up and test any electricity if you want it now. And if you can't run any electricity, go with batteries or none at all. In this particular display, I'm in luck. There's a plug in each cabinet. Score number 2 for the villager. Step 4, backgrounds. Shelf and cabinet displays are tricky because your background is confined to the space within the cabinet. The good news is that you can use the back and sides to help prop up any backgrounds that you have. You'll see that painter's tape works really well here. I do opt not to crease backgrounds into the corners, especially if I want to reuse those backgrounds year to year. Use backgrounds strategically. Fill the entire wall space, some or not at all. You can even allow the wall to serve as a background itself. If your cabinet is too deep, you can always come out further towards the front and leave that space behind the background empty. I also go for brighter backgrounds in cabinets since it can get a little crowded and shadowy depending on your light source. For this set, I'm using a background I made for the Munsters. It was a little long, so I trimmed it just slightly for a better fit. Another consideration with a cabinet display is that after most steps, close the doors to make sure that, one, you can actually shut the door so that nothing is blocking or hitting up against your door. And then another consideration is to view what your display looks like from the front. Make sure it looks good to you. Is everything centered? Is everything balanced? Is anything hidden? You'll see me doing this throughout the process. I'm also going to make use of this existing command strip hook and hang a Haunted Mansion sign. Now the hook isn't centered with the door, unfortunately. I'll just use it and make adjustments. Start pulling the stuff that will fit within your cabinet space. Next, you'll want to add in any platforms, which will add height variety, or any landforms, natural like hills, valleys, waterways, etc. So I don't have any with this display, so I'll skip it. If you have any to add, make sure that they won't scratch your shelf or walls and that they fit within the cabinet. Next is building marking. Now you'll want to figure out which buildings will go where. Cabinets are confined spaces, so you want to make sure your buildings don't block one another and that they are visible with the doors closed. I'm in luck. I only have one building. Usually electricity would be your next step, but we already covered that because of our structure choice. So up next is laying down the base, which is any kind of covering of the shelf that your village will sit on. If you don't have a base to add, your shelf by default is the base. When working with a base, start in the middle and front and work your way to the sides and then to the back. I will often gather the sides and back if I have a lot of excess or cut it off to fit. For this display, I'm testing out a Sherpa blanket, folding the base in the middle, laying down starting in the middle and then spreading outward from there. If I'm too short, I can stretch. Too long, I can gather. I always like to test out new village or non-village specific products in my displays. This color really caught my eye, and I thought it would go with the sage leaves on the Haunted Mansion sign. You'll have to let me know what you think. Now that your base is up, you can set your buildings. If you have electricity, what's really nice about cabinet displays is that you sometimes don't even have to cut the base for your light cords. You can literally hide the cords behind or under things. I'm turning it slightly outward so that you can see the details from the side. Next up is pathways. Any gates, cars, walkways, arches, fountains, bridges, hedges, etc. I only have the gate and hearse with this display. Oh, but just you wait. I'm going to eventually make a brick walkway with flower beds and a pet cemetery for another year. Stay tuned. For now, I'm going to put the carriage in the center of the display since this is its big debut. I just got this in this week. There's really not a great place for this gate. The door will block the middle. On the right, it's going to block the house. On the left, there's already a lot of text. Well, since I want to put it close to the edge, I'll go with the left. Next up are accessories. These are the individual people, animals, and things that add a bit of action or activity, a busyness to the village. I've got the hitchhikers and singing statues as my accessories. I'm going to put the hitchhikers on the left, add a bit of color, and then I'm going to add the statues to the right of the house to kind of balance out the grayness of the carriage. Trees are a great fill-in in cabinet displays, and fall-themed trees add a great splash of color and depth. I usually start with the tallest trees and then work my way down to the smallest. Now I have a matching set of trees, and sometimes I'll leave the set together or spread out. Since I've got a lot of orange already and one of the other trees has a little darker orange, I'm going to go ahead and leave this set together, offset it with the dark orange and then the background throughout. Just a quick note, if your cabinet doesn't have a lot of headspace from top to bottom, like this cabinet, you may want to start with the trees and then add the accessories, since most trees go in the back and the accessories go in front of them. Make any final adjustments or add small details to unite the scene together, either in theme or in color or in spacing. For fall displays, this is a great time to spread out some miniature fall leaves. I'm testing out another non-village specific product, these wood-carved painted leaves. I'm going to spread them out to break up the saginess, going for some random and clumped placements. These leaves are big in scale, but they are detailed, they add height, and they have a hardness to them, which I thought might counterbalance the softness of the Sherpa base. While setting this village up, it was pouring down rain outside, and my hair took a beating. And the audio test, atrocious. But you know, after the drought and record-breaking heat of this past summer, a downpour like this was so welcome. So, bad hair and post-narration it was. The last step is to close those doors and look at the display from different angles, making sure your door frame isn't blocking anything. If you don't like what you see, adjust. You can also pizzazz the exterior of your cabinet, like the doors or the frames. I actually have to do this. When the cabinet doors close, you can see this blank space between the Sherpa blanket shelf and the bottom of the cabinet floor. It's all with the hinge. I hide this space with a write-up about the display that I tape to the back of the doors. Feel free to be strategic like that too. This display took me about 25 minutes altogether, minus a few outtakes, which I'll be sure to include in the bloopers video to come. Above is a link to see the completed village with music accompaniment. Thanks for watching and happy cabinet villaging!